Welcome back, everyone. I am so excited to dive into today's explainer with you. Over the last couple of weeks, specifically weeks 5 and 6, you've all done some seriously amazing work using AI to generate your K-culture materials, right? The lesson plans, the educational videos, it's awesome. But creating the content is really just half the battle. Today, we're shifting gears to a highly practical, step-by-step guide tailored specifically for beginner educators. We're going to take all those localized files sitting on your computer and transform them into a globally accessible digital gallery. We'll walk through the whole shebang together, from setting up your GitHub account and sharing your repository, right down to some hands-on coding practice to build your very own web pages.
Okay, but before we get into the tech, I have to ask you something. Be honest, have you ever been working on a lesson plan and saved the file as final? And then maybe an hour later, you save another one as real_final, or my personal favorite, absolute_final_v2. Yeah, we have all been there. It's literally so frustrating to accidentally overwrite someone else's work or just lose track of which file is the actual completed product. That universal headache, that version control nightmare, that's exactly why modern educators need a better system. And that brings us to our ultimate solution.
So, here's our game plan for today. We'll start with a quick intro to GitHub, move into creating an account in a repo, tackle those Git commands and uploading, talk about static web pages, and wrap up with HTML and CSS basics. It's totally manageable, I promise.
All right, part 1, Introduction to GitHub. Let's look at why educators actually need this. You know, people hear GitHub and think complex developer jargon. Let's just toss that out the window. Look at GitHub as your own personal gallery builder. First, it's a portfolio, a beautifully structured digital gallery to exhibit your K-culture work. It's also a collaboration space, kind of like a shared studio where you can work with peers without constantly stepping on each other's toes or overwriting files. Plus, it acts as a version history museum, perfectly tracking the evolution of your documents. And finally, it's a global square. It's a community connecting you with educators all over the world. It is incredibly valuable once you get the hang of it.
Moving on to part 2, creating an account and a repo. Don't worry, setting up your studio is super simple. I'm going to act as your virtual over-the-shoulder mentor here. To claim your space online, first, just head over to github.com and hit sign up. You'll pop in your email and create a password. Now, step 4 is actually really important. You want to set an educator-friendly username. Since this is going to be your professional portfolio, pick something that really reflects your role, something like K-Culture Educator Jane, for example. Then, just complete the email verification and boom, just like that, you're officially part of the global community.
Once you're in, it's time to build your very first exhibit room. In GitHub land, this is called a repository, or just a repo for short. Just click that little plus icon at the top right and hit New Repository. Let's name this one K-Culture-Education-Materials. You'll want to make sure you set it to public so your students and fellow teachers can actually see it. And hey, public repos are totally free and unlimited. Next, check the box to initialize with a README and click Create Repository. Congrats, your digital exhibit is officially open for business. Okay, let's take a quick tour of your new repo. The Code tab is basically your filing cabinet. That's where all your files live. Issues serve as your to-do lists or bug reports, and pull requests are for when someone wants to propose a change to your work. But I really want to focus your attention on that first point, the readme.md file. This is the absolute most important piece. Think of your README as the welcoming plaque at the entrance of a museum exhibit. It greets your visitors, explains exactly what your K-Culture AI materials are all about, and tells them how to use the resources.
All right, part 3, Git commands and uploading. Let's get your computer talking to the world.
I completely get that the command line can feel a bit intimidating at first, but I promise it's just a few simple commands. The magic starts with git init. So imagine you just have a totally normal folder on your desktop called My K-Culture Project. By opening your terminal and typing git init, you are essentially casting a spell on it. That command instantly transforms a boring plain folder into a time-traveling version-tracked workspace. It starts watching every single change you make from that exact second onward. Pretty cool, right? So now that your folder is tracking changes, let's actually practice saving a version. Say you create a simple file, like lessonplan.md. First, you tell Git to prepare that file by typing git add lessonplan.md. Then, and this is the big one, you type git commit -m followed by a little message in quotes like added first plan.
Committing is literally like taking a permanent snapshot of your hard work. You're never, ever going to have to name a file final_the2 again, because Git is tracking the whole history for you. And that brings us to the final piece of the uploading puzzle. You've taken your local snapshot, right? Now you want the world to see it. By typing git push -u origin main, you are securely sending your local work straight up to your GitHub repository. This is it. This is the exact moment your local lesson plans get published to your global gallery for anyone, anywhere to check out.
Now take a look at this beautifully clean, logical structure. We've got dedicated folders for Week 5 AI content, complete with lesson plans and worksheets, and Week 6 video content, which holds your videos and subtitles. All you do is drag your Week 5 and Week 6 folders into this structure on your computer, commit the changes, and push them up to GitHub. Boom! Your digital portfolio is perfectly organized and totally protected.
Moving on to Section 4, Static Web Pages. This is where we start building the actual front gallery for the viewers.
So the crucial point here is understanding how web pages are actually built. I love this analogy metaphor. HTML is the bones, CSS is the skin, and JavaScript is the muscle. HTML provides the core structure and content. CSS adds the design, the colors, the beautiful styling, and JavaScript gives it movement and interactivity. Looking at it this way makes the foundational elements of the web so much easier to grasp.
When we build a web page, we're basically choosing between a static or dynamic site. Dynamic websites need constant, real-time updates and complex databases. Like, think of a massive student grading system. Static websites, though, they're straightforward displays where the content rarely changes on its own. And I really want to emphasize this. For an educator's portfolio showcasing K-culture resources, a simple, elegant, static website is 100% exactly what you need.
To put that into perspective, let's look at how learners are actually consuming content these days. Think about it. 60% of them are accessing materials via smartphones. Compare that to just 25% on desktops and 15% on tablets. This right here is exactly why responsive design, which just means your website automatically adjusts to look good on any screen size, is absolutely critical. We literally have to design for the phone first.
Finally, Section 5, HTML and CSS Basics. Let's see how all of this actually builds out.
All right, to write your code, you need a solid editor. We highly, highly recommend downloading Visual Studio Code, or just VS Code. Think of it as your ultimate paintbrush and canvas toolkit. If you add an extension called Live Server, you actually get a real-time preview of your web page right as you're typing. It's a total game changer. It makes coding highly visual, immediate, and way less abstract, especially when you're just starting out. Let's peek at some HTML. Think of these essential tags as little digital flashcards. If you want a big main title, you use the H1 tag, maybe for something like K-Culture Portal. For your regular text, use the P or paragraph tag. Want to show a beautiful picture of a home book? Just use the IMG tag. And to create clickable links that go back to your GitHub repository, you'll use the A tag. It's incredibly intuitive to build the structural bones of your page just by stacking these tags. Once your bones are in place, well, it's time to add the skin using CSS. And the syntax here is wonderfully simple. You have your selector, then curly brackets containing a property and a value. For example, if you want your H1 title to be blue, your selector is H1, your property is color, and your value is blue. That's the whole shebang. This simple, readable syntax is how you completely transform the layout and feel of your gallery. Now, there are 3 main ways to apply this styling to your web page. You can write it inline, which means directly inside the specific HTML tag. You can use internal CSS, which groups your styles nicely in the header of your document. Or, for the cleanest approach by far, use external CSS, where your styles are kept in a completely separate file and linked to your HTML. Having these options gives you total flexibility in how you design. Wow, we have covered a tremendous amount of ground in this session, from banishing those messy file names forever with GitHub to setting up your remote repo and laying down the foundational code for your very own web page. You now have the exact practical toolkit you need to take your Week 5 and Week 6 AI-generated materials and share them with the entire world. So I'm going to leave you with this. How will you design your own K-Culture digital portfolio gallery today? The canvas is totally yours. Your repository is waiting, so get out there and start building. Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer, and happy creating.